Good morning, everybody. Question for the week. What was motivating the spies to come back and present this terrible negative report about Israel and destroy the whole project for everybody? What was in it for them? So there's an amazing insight in the Zohar, actually. The Zohar says it was known, everybody knew and understood, that when the Jewish people would leave the desert and enter into the land of Israel, that there was going to be a change of leadership, that the old leaders were going to be retired and a new generation of leadership was going to be appointed. A new party, a new prime minister, new members of the Knesset. And the spies were the current leadership. They were the leaders, they were the Nasim, they were the tribes, the leaders of each tribe. So they knew that when they entered into the land of Israel, their jobs, their role, their leadership positions were going to come to an end. And that's why they came back and they convinced everybody not to go into the land. But there's a problem, a big problem. And that is Rashi points out, Rashi, the medieval commentator, the most important commentator in the Torah, points out in the very beginning of the Torah portion that these men were righteous. They were righteous tzaddikim. They were holy people. So we can't expect that holy people were going to act in such a petty way. And the commentaries go a little bit deeper and they explain that although the Zohar is telling us what was motivating them, they were not even aware on a conscious level of that motivation. It was not a conscious decision. They did not come to the conclusion and say, hey, you know what, as soon as we enter into the land, we're going to lose our jobs and our leadership role. We're going to be kicked out of the parliament. Let's go back and create this negative report so that we don't go into. There was no conscious thought about that. It was not something that they were aware of. It existed in a deeper level, in a subconscious level. It wasn't thought. It wasn't part of their thought process. And they were righteous, and they made a fatal error without realizing it. And the message, I think, for us is a very, very important one and a deep one, and that is that the role of our subconscious, the role that our feelings, our emotions, our desires, our desired outcomes play in our decision-making process cannot be underestimated. Meaning even motivations and yearnings that we may not even be consciously aware of are always heavily weighing in to every decision that we make. In other words, I guess another way of putting this is that we desperately lack objectivity when it comes to the important decisions that we make that are directly affecting our lives. And that's the reason why it says in Pirkei Avot, everybody needs to have at least a mentor and a friend. A mentor who they can take direction from and take guidance from and advice from, and a friend who can help steer them and keep them on the path that they've identified as being the right way to go. We have no objectivity when it comes to our own lives. We can't rely solely on ourselves to make all of our important decisions. We need to speak things out with friends, with a spouse, with a mentor, with a teacher, with a rabbi, with somebody who has some wisdom, who's been through the experience before, and who has more objectivity than we do because they're not as directly involved. It's a very, very important lesson. I don't usually do this, but another tiny little idea that I want to throw out there, unrelated to the first one, is that one of the great commentaries points out that it says that men were sent. These spies were men. Now, obviously, we know they're men. So why is the Torah going out of its way to tell us they were men? And the commentator, the Kli Yakar, says because had Moses sent women to go do this job, this very, very important job, they would not have come back and brought this ego-driven, subconsciously focused negative report or scathing idea about the land of Israel to the Jewish people. They would have gone and they would have sought a deeper, clearer understanding, and they would have come back and they would have guided the Jewish people in a better way. And my wife always loves to point out that if all the politicians in the world were women, the world would be a better place. And to be honest, after catching a few highlights of last night's, or I guess I should say low lights of last night's political debate, I think I get what she's talking about. Anyway, had to put that in there. Wishing you guys all a wonderful Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom from Yerushalayim.